America faces a basic paradox. On the one hand, we are a democratic nation where the majority rules, but on the other hand, we're guaranteed the right to believe or not believe. In a country where more than 75% of the population is Christian and 5% atheist, how can we allow the majority to rule and still protect the rights of the individual? That brings us to the topic of this show, atheism in society.
Atheism is simply the lack of belief in gods and the supernatural.
Most atheists state a lack of evidence for the existence of deities.
I think that there is not enough good evidence to believe in a God, and I think that the burden of proof lies with those who posit that there is a God, and if enough evidence can't be provided, I just can't believe.
Some atheists share same ideologies, but that's all we have in common is the lack of belief in a God. So they get their ideologies from rationality, just thinking, hey, that makes sense, that seems moral, or just being a good person makes them happy. So
there is no one ideology or set of behaviors that are common to all atheists. Atheists go with what they know through nature, science, free thinking, and logic.
Most of my information I'd get probably from things like education, from taking college classes, things like philosophy, psychology, and then also a lot of it comes from just things I kind of pick up on my own, experiences I have, or certain situations I see, people I meet.
We interviewed some Free Thought Alliance members on how they felt society viewed their non-belief in a God.
In general American society, I think the view of an atheist is in very negative terms. People like to say this is a Christian nation, but it's actually a nation full of Christians. We're a secular nation, but because it's a nation full of Christians, they like to look on anybody that doesn't have their same views or ideas in a negative tone, even though they don't fully understand what the other person thinks.
A lot of people who keep to their beliefs or who don't say it, no one really cares, but once someone is out with their beliefs, is out that they're an atheist, a lot of religious people, they take offense almost. It's like a personal attack. But it's not that they're immoral or anything like that. It's just that they don't personally believe, but for some reason society tends to think that they're Satanistic or, they're horrible people. But we're no different than Christians. It's just a difference in our beliefs.
The purpose of this program is to give the viewer an idea of what it means to be atheist in American society. Where does one person's freedom of religion begin and another's freedom from religion end? Before the break, the treasurer of the Free Thought Alliance defined what atheism is, and we touched on atheist ideologies. In this segment, we will talk with members of the off-campus Catholic ministries, followed by a visit to a non-denominational church. This part of the show is for those who believe in God to voice their opinions about atheists.
I tend to believe that there are 2, maybe even 3 kinds of atheists. The first are just like functional atheists, and they may even say they believe in God, but they don't ever act on it. And then there are anti-theist atheists. These people sometimes had a bad run-in with religion and take it out on it, blame it for their problems. There are those who, for whatever reason, find the faith to be a bad thing for society. They come in a variety. And then there are atheists who believe that, say, hold up science or rational thought as the only way to know anything. And while that certainly is important, and the Catholic tradition puts quite a bit of weight to logic and rationale, those people just don't want to believe anything that can't be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, which I think doesn't really hold up if you look at a whole human belief system. You're going to believe things that you can't necessarily prove.
If you're asking whether or not I believe that their beliefs are correct, the answer is no. I believe that there is a God, and I believe that He loves all of His children. It's not for me to judge whether having a belief or not is wrong, because I'm not God. But I can judge whether that belief is factually true, and it's just not.
I think people can do good things if they're atheists. I think atheists are wrong in the sense that they think there's no God. And so any way that plays out in their life, I think that they're wrong.
The idea that an atheist can be a good person kind of is begging the question, because from the Christian point of view, there's no such thing as a good person. There are people who do a much better job of following God's commandments and following morals and ethics, but we're all essentially fallen compared to God. So an atheist can be a very ethical and moral person, but I think that in the end of the day, the logical conclusion of their beliefs is going to lead to some pretty nasty things.
People take whatever is written in the Bible as the Word of God, and therefore there's no room for question, there's no room for adjustment as time goes on, as the moral feelings of the world change.
After talking with members of the Catholic Campus Ministry, we are now at Discovery Church, a non-denominational church, to get more information.
I totally believe that they have valuable opinions. Their beliefs come from some sort of understanding of something, whether it's through science, through bad experience, through just denial, through lack of admitting. I have no idea. It's a personal experience for sure. So I wouldn't doubt that there are intelligent people who are atheists, and wouldn't doubt that there are good and loving people who are atheists.
I don't think the ethics come from men, from people, from humanity, because A, we're selfish at our heart, and B, if ethics can't be based on what we think, because the things that we think change all the time. And so I find that for me, morality needs to come from something greater than myself. Morality needs to come from something that's foundational, not something that's shakeable.
I think atheists, at least the smarter ones, try to take a scientific look at life, looking for a logical, analytical, sensible way for life to have come into existence. You have a lot of people who aren't even really atheists. They don't like the idea of organized religion, and so I'm an atheist for shock value. But some people really sit and they say, okay, look, science proves a lot of other things. We can prove that gravity exists on the earth. Can we not prove the rest of creation?
I think we're always kind of constantly searching and asking questions, and that's part of existence.
I think a lot of people might be confused with the existence of God, starting with science, and the easiest one to pick on would be evolution. And really the person behind evolution you would say is Darwin. But to say that, Darwin is the founder of atheism, I think would be extremely incorrect. And many scientists have come along and, made theories and done studies to, prove or disprove God. And I would say that just a conglomeration of all of the publications that would say, that God does not exist would be their, basis of, saying what they believe or what they not believe.
To say in general atheist means anti-God, I don't necessarily know if they are against God, but if they don't believe in God, then if you're not for him, you're against him. So by default I would say, yeah, in general I would say that atheism, I think, against God.
As with any other ultimatum, it's completely false. There's always a middle ground to everything. You can't lump anything into two categories, and anyone who says otherwise is simply ignorant. If they don't care to realize the other possibilities in life, then that's their problem, I guess.
There's a group of atheists, I guess, that like to sort of attack the ideas of religion and organized religion because of their dogmatic beliefs and how it really affects our day-to-day lives as Americans. But atheism at its core isn't anti-anything. It's just we don't believe in that, so we're not going to do that. But it's not like we're taking up arms against anybody else's ideas.
Yes, atheist people can be good people. They be good they can be good people because being good makes them happy. And I personally, I can't speak for all atheists, but I think the meaning of life is happiness. And it makes me happy to make others happy, so that's why I'm a good person.
I would say that people who do things because it says in the Bible and, because of, what God will take vengeance on them for are people that you should probably be afraid of, because that seems like kind of a weak approach as opposed to, just simply believing in something and believing that you shouldn't hurt someone.
After the break, we are going to discuss the separation of church and state, or lack thereof. Why do students in grade school have to say the Pledge of Allegiance, which includes the line, "One nation under God," and why does it say, "In God we trust," on our currency? The First Amendment states that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
Our country was founded on the very mores and principles of Christianity and of religion in general, respect for your fellow man, the ability and the inherent right to exercise free will, that everybody's equal. Those are principles that are found throughout the Old Testament, throughout the New Testament, throughout the Quran, and other great religions. We apologize if that offends you, honestly, and you don't have to say it, and you don't have to look at it. I'm sorry.
When I did the pledge in high school, I just didn't say that part. To me, it was almost not worth the fight. If you have a problem with it, don't say it. It's a problem that it's on the currency because not everyone trusts in the God, that God or a God or, one God even. It's a problem. I really wish that it weren't there and our country weren't defined by it. But it's not a problem that I'm willing to fight arm and leg for, so.
I definitely think it should be a separation between church and state. I think that putting religion into every matter and putting faith into every matter can be very dangerous. When people say that, God told them to do this or God told them to do that, from a psychological standpoint, we call that schizophrenia. I mean, you shouldn't be running a country based on your schizophrenic beliefs.
I believe that the history of our country was founded in God and I guess I would say Christian principles, which is why we departed from England, was to get away from that and to found our own country on the basis of God and religion, which is why it says, "In God we trust, and one nation under God." However, I would say presently, with the freedom of religion, I would say that we've made a step towards separation of church and state, but I wouldn't say that we are there, no.
As people continued to come over from Europe and other places seeking religious asylum, that they were also believers in the God of Christianity. And as to why our money says "In God we trust," I'm not really sure, but I know that there are parts of our history that are based on Christianity. Not all of them, though.
Was America built on Christian doctrine? I think people that say that really need to go back and research who their forefathers were, because a good percentage of them were atheists, Thomas Jefferson probably being one of the most vocal of them. In fact, he referred to God as, a terrific character, as in terror, not as in wonderful, because of the damage that he did, and he specifically wanted to keep all of that out of the laws of this country.
When was the last time anybody looked at a dollar bill and saw "In God We Trust" and had a religious experience? No one. They look at the dollar bill, and they look for another dollar bill, and they look for $5, and they give it to the cash register. No one has ever been evangelized by one of our monuments or one of our dollar bills.
And a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, you've never had a religious experience by looking at the back of a dollar bill." But that's not the point. The point isn't that you had a religious experience. It's the point that the government is legitimizing, is promoting a religion. It doesn't matter if it says "In God we trust" or if it says "In Buddha we trust." It's still a religion. And in layman's terms, there's no room for God in government.
Do I believe that America trusts in God? I would say very little. I think there's a lot of things in our inconvenience, like we have no inconvenience of being Americans in comparison to the rest of the world, and so maybe if we had some sort of inconvenience, then we could claim in God we trust, but I think there's very little trusting in a God of higher power, and so it's there, maybe just because our founding fathers, and does it really represent the entire body of America? I would say no.
I don't agree with having one nation under God in the Pledge of Allegiance, or having in God we trust on the currency. This stuff, a lot of people don't know. It was added in the 1950s during the McCarthy era to distinguish us from the evil atheist communists. It's not right to exclude a portion of the population just because they don't share the same beliefs as the other people.
I think it is said that our nation was founded on God. It could be proven that it isn't. It really depends on who you speak to. Do I feel that it is necessary for my money to say in God we trust? No. I think that I know for myself in God I trust. And flipping over a coin does not more validate my trust in God, or if the coin no longer said in God we trust, I don't believe that it would change my trust in God. So, why argue? Take it away. But please don't spend any of my money in lobbying or fighting to have something taken off. Should it have been there in the first place? I don't know. If in fact our nation was founded on that, sure. But we've changed lots of things in the nation to fit the nation.
What are you doing when you're saying the Pledge of Allegiance? You're swearing your loyalty to a country. You're swearing your loyalty to America, because we're American citizens, so we should do that. But when you come to that line, one nation under God, what are you doing? You're swearing your allegiance to a God you may or may not believe exists. Even if you believe in religion, you may not believe that God exists. So it's not just a term of atheism, it's a term of disrespect towards all religions that aren't Christians.
I don't think the pledge should say one nation under God. I think it's just one nation indivisible. And I find that having under God in the pledge is a contradiction, considering the next word is indivisible, because how can we not be divided if we're actually dividing ourselves in the pledge? Some Americans are atheists, so having under God in there actually divides us. And not all Americans believe that we trust in God. I don't trust in God. I don't think God exists.
Is there currently a separation between church and state?
Not enough of one. Like I said, we have these faith-based doctrines and faith-based laws right now, and I think it's doing a lot of damage. And I think that there was a time in this country where there was a separation, but I think it's definitely closing up. And like I said, you can't get elected to office if you're not religious, specifically religious to the group that you're being elected by. In this country, that's mostly Christian.
I think we're seeing a backswing right now where separation of church and state is in danger at this point. I think it's absolutely necessary. I do not think we were founded as a Christian nation, so I think that we need to go back to the way that it's supposed to be, essentially. We were not founded to be a religious nation. I think it's imperative that we have separation of church and state.
Do I think that a particular church body, Calvary Assembly of God, do I think that church should govern the laws? No. But I think that somehow moral law has to be entered in. And so, to some extent, there will always be religion and state coupled together.
At my core, I'm libertarian. To say that I would prefer a government that was involved in as little as possible in my life and in the lives of society. Unfortunately, we have a two-party system where neither party is seeking liberation. They're seeking over-legislation and bureaucracy. And so I think the government should not be associated with church. I think that the government should not be associated with a lot of things that it is associated with.
We're just trying to get our voices out there and to have other people understand what we're saying. We could say the same thing about Christians, that they spread the word, they act like they're the only ones that are right, and that they know that they're right, but I know that I'm right, so how's it any different?
Well, that's all the time we have. Thanks for watching this show on Atheism in Society. Just remember, it doesn't matter what you believe as long as you feel it's right for you. See you next time!